What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be speaking about 3 twin flame aspects to look out for in Synastry. When it comes to twin flame relationships, these are connections that are quite deep and also transformative as well. And when it comes to twin flame relationships and just the concept of having a twin flame, it can also be pretty spiritual, and the relationship is one that can have a lot of spiritual growth in it too. But it is a pretty intense relationship if it's a twin flame relationship, because when it comes to twin flame dynamics, these can get intense. So when it comes to one significant indicator of a twin flame relationship between two people, it is in having the moon conjuncting Neptune, or having the moon aspecting Neptune in some way in a Synastry chart between two people. So when it comes to Neptune, this is a planet that rules over dreams. This has to do with intuition, and it is a very spiritual energy as well. And when it comes to the moon, this is a pretty subconscious and emotional energy that represents our deepest needs as well. So bringing these two together in a conjunction, this can actually make for a pretty psychic bond to share with someone and a twin flame connection. Because with this aspect, they can feel like they can sense each other. They can sense each other's feelings, each other's needs. And when it comes to having the twin flame dynamic between two people, this does tend to feel like two halves of a whole, and having this aspect can feel like it is really emphasizing that type of connection between two people, where it feels like there is this not only emotional but also just mutual understanding and unity between two people. And since Neptune is also a planet that represents and is associated with having unconditional love and having that compassionate energy being brought into a relationship, the Neptune person here brings to the relationship this really deep empathy with the moon person. And the Neptune person can even really nurture the emotional connection with the moon person, because the Neptune person wants to be able to protect the moon person and even just be able to care for the moon person, and they care about the moon person's emotional well-being in this relationship with them. And when it comes to twin flames, there does tend to be this desire to be able to have something, a love that feels like an unconditional one, where they feel like they are drawn to each other to be able to learn to actually love in a selfless way. And with the Neptune touching the moon like this, it does bring out that. And another thing that the Neptune energy can really bring into this relationship is the sense of spiritual devotion in this relationship between two people, which is also another reason why it's a twin flame aspect. Because within the relationship between the moon person and the Neptune person, there is just this inspiration to be able to actually have a pretty spiritual, selfless, unconditional kind of love. And their relationship kind of brings out this desire to be able to actually learn about being able to connect in that way with each other. There's also a level of fantasy that the Neptune brings into this relationship between the two people. And for that reason, they do experience what can be emotional highs and lows in this relationship. And this relationship can at times feel a bit dreamlike and surreal for the two partners, because when it comes to that level of fantasy that the Neptune person brings into this relationship between them, it affects the way they're really looking at the relationship. And at times that can be something that makes it a very magical experience, but it can also bring in some challenges as well, because with Neptune, this does bring in illusions at times, and that can introduce having highs and lows and also experiencing a lot of emotional highs and lows. And they can go through cycles with this. But with those highs and lows, they also get the opportunity to really learn a lot of spiritual lessons behind any of those almost heightened emotional experiences that this aspect can bring into a relationship for two people. Neptune can also have a way of blurring the boundaries between two people, and in this case it can be the emotional boundaries in their relationship, which can just create some confusion at times and even feelings of disillusionment. And when it comes to the Neptune energy, at times people can over idealize the relationship. But with the twin flame dynamic, this also can be an indicator of having things like separation within a connection, and even having things like emotional struggle at times within a connection. And when it comes to those periods of separation in a relationship, that's really where they get the opportunity to learn about and get the chance to balance the deep connection that comes with this relationship with their individual identity and maintain a sense of individual identity. But in essence, this aspect is a pretty powerful twin flame indicator because they have the ability to have unconditional love in their relationship between each other, and because of their ability to have a lot of spiritual growth as well as emotional depth in their relationship with each other, which is something brought on by having this aspect. And another twin flame aspect to have is when Venus, the planet of love, beauty, aspects Pluto, the planet of transformation, intensity, and power. When it comes to these aspects tend to show intense attraction between two people. And there's that magnetic type of attraction between the Venus person and the Pluto person. It's almost undeniable and can feel like fate has brought two people together. And even when it comes to the attraction, it can be the kind of attraction that's quite deep. It feels almost obsessive with this aspect. But when it comes to the way in which the Venus person and the Pluto person affect each other or trigger each other, they are going to feel triggered to experience really emotional and even spiritual growth, like in a twin flame dynamic. And the love between the Venus person and the Pluto person can be really quite deep. But with Pluto being a planet all about death and rebirth, it can also feel like whenever they go through any kind of highs and lows that can be brought upon with this aspect, there's this feeling of being reborn emotionally after going through the highs and the lows, making this a pretty deep and intense kind of love between the Venus person and the Pluto person. And since when it comes to twin flames, it is all about being brought together to help each other be able to grow and even give each other a push to evolve and confront their deepest fears and even their deepest desires and their emotional wounds. So with Pluto and Venus, the Pluto person in this relationship, as well as the Venus person, are kind of doing that for each other, which is why it is a twin flame type of dynamic when it comes to having this aspect in a relationship between two people. However, even with this aspect, there can be some challenges that do come up, and those really do usually center around things like power, control, and can really bring in some power struggles or even just experiences of things like intense emotional conflict at times because of these things. But with this aspect, they learn things like surrendering control and trust. And because Pluto is about transformation, they do experience this transformative type of love. And with that, there are a lot of opportunities to really experience deep healing in the relationships when Venus is connecting with Pluto. When it comes to twin flames, they do bring both passion, but they also can bring challenges. And with having this aspect, it brings that, and hence it's an indicator of having a twin flame relationship with someone. Like emotionally and even spiritually, they're going to be pushed to their limits within this relationship with each other, and they're going to experience that cycle of death and rebirth in their relationship, which can make them really be able to experience becoming stronger in this relationship, and because of this relationship with each other, because they get to confront fears and shadow aspects of themselves. And finally, another aspect is when it comes to having Mars connecting with Pluto. So when it comes to Mars and Pluto, the Mars person is the one that can feel this really overwhelming pull or being drawn to the Pluto person. When it comes to the Pluto person, how they feel about the Mars person, it can be a bit more subconscious. And the Pluto person is going to affect the Mars person on really influencing them on a subconscious level in this relationship with them. When it comes to having Mars aspecting Pluto, be it a conjunction, a trine, a square, or an opposition, this does show that there can be periods of separation or even periods of conflict between the Pluto person and the Mars person. But it's the Mars person especially, they're going to learn about being able to connect and being able to really tap into a level of vulnerability from the Pluto person, as well as things like having more emotional depth from the Pluto person. And with this aspect, they're just going to grow beyond surface level connection. And that's because Pluto does have a need for being able to get deep and having regeneration in their relationship. And that's what they're going to bring to this relationship with the Mars person. And it's a twin flame dynamic because they really push each other to grow, and this relationship pushes them to grow. Whether that is going to be as far as them being able to experience healing of old patterns or old experiences that have gone unaddressed, or being able to really find new strengths through their connection with each other. And generally, this aspect is one that has a very transformative aspect to it, and that's why it is a twin flame type of relationship. They are helping each other and pushing each other to be able to grow in a lot of ways. It is pretty intense, especially emotionally, and there's a lot of passion, just like any twin flame relationship. However, also emotional challenges that can come up, and there is a lot of potential to grow, to evolve, either individually or together. These aspects show really powerful attraction between two people, but also intense emotional experiences that can happen between two people, and for them to be able to really grow beyond, which they will, because it is also an indicator of really transformative love and that deep transformation that Pluto can bring. Well, that does it for this video on 3 twin flame aspects in Synastry. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you found it helpful. And if you did, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Well, that is where I love and leave you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys.